Hello, Hoosier Nation. I'm the Coach Shannon Griffith, and welcome to Hoosier Tailgate Special Recruiting Edition here on the Hoosier.com. Big afternoon for the Indiana Hoosiers as they wrapped up 22 commitments signed, sealed, and delivered mostly this morning. I would say everybody was in by no later than 9:30 at the latest. But a good group of young men signed with this Indiana team and really elevated Indiana's profile in recruiting. You got to think that the last two seasons had a huge impact on Indiana's ability to go out and attract top-tiered recruits. They were able to secure now elevated four-star recruits. We'll go over those in a second. Lost some on the way, not unexpected. Like I said earlier in the week, a couple weeks ago, when IU was losing some recruits, you don't know the scenario that goes into what that decision truly was. Was it a kid's decision because he may have found the pasture greener on the other side of the fence, or was it Indiana saying, look, as much as we'd like to take you, we're not going to be able to, and allowing a kid to be notified early enough that he can open his recruitment back up. And remember, this is just the first day a young man can sign. So from here up until I think it's February, if I'm not mistaken, they can sign a national letter of intent. So while everybody potentially signs today, because this is the quote unquote early signing period, most do. Some will have some scholarships left around to potentially add to this class. Indiana may have a few available to add to this class. They do not have a quarterback on record in this recruiting class. I do think that's going to be a wait to be determined situation. Of course, with Fernando, whether he does officially come out or not. Tyler Cherry, is he going to come back into the fray? He set out this year due to that knee injury he sustained about a year ago at this time. And then where they're at with the rest of the quarterback room and such. So there's a lot of things that will go into this aspect of things when you talk about the recruiting aspect of this and that. But again, 2026 class sign recap, 22 high school signees, 4 blue chip prospects, some big in-state wins, got some kids out of the pipelines of Florida and Georgia, and also some East Coast kids. That's the one big thing, is that they have a little bit of a broader recruiting base in that respects. I would say they check pretty much all the boxes for this staff in terms of what they're looking for, with fast, physical, relentless mindset of the kids that they're recruiting. I do think they added some aspects of the defense with this group, with some guys up front, some guys at the backer position, and of course on the back end and corners, because you're going to lose some top players, especially defensively. And you need to continue to build the foundation that we've heard Coach Signee talk about for the better part of 2 years. He is not going to be somebody that wants to go in to the portal all the time to pick up kids because he does not have the depth at a certain position. He wants that to be a last resort, or to add 1 or 2 pieces that may be missing. So the better you can lay the foundation, get these kids developed into the strength and conditioning, into the nutrition, also into the practice field and things of that nature, bring them up the right way and get them to be players that can be depended upon, their junior, senior year. And some of them will be able to be dependent on as a sophomore or redshirt freshman. And there may be some in this group that will crack the 2 deep and get some playing time, maybe on special teams as much as that. But, this class, I think, is ultimately a good indication of where Indiana is when you talk about where Coach Signee is with all his group, and where they're at in terms of brand awareness. I think that's another key component too. And we're seeing that already with some of the group of recruits that they're bringing in with the 27 class and the 28th class in that respect. So it's one of those things that Indiana is getting some of the big, getting that, I guess you could say, the name recognition, brand awareness right when they walk through the door with this group of guys. And you can see Indiana is getting some of that aspect of things. And, when you look at this group, like I said, got some blue purse prospect. I think the defense, they got some guys that can return the football. They've got some speed on the outsides and some of the wide receivers. They got some key flips at the last part of the recruiting cycle. Novak being one of the bigger ones, as far as, and then Lavar Keys and Tim's and some of these guys that were able to be added to this group, I think were huge in that respect. And then again, I think the defensive question marks had going into recruiting, they answered those questions with this group of kids. One thing I will say, we won't have a quote unquote official ranking on this class. I've seen it fluctuate between 28th. It's as high, and I think it's now somewhere in the I think it may be in the top 20. I'm not quite sure here. Let's see. I'm trying to get over to that page to kind of see where everything's falling out right now. Right now, they're 31st overall in the country, and we'll see if that improves anymore with who they may or may not be able to get in the Big Ten. They're currently 9th in the Big Ten with this class. So again, rankings are one thing. It gives you an idea, but it does not totally paint the true picture. And Indiana is still fighting for that opportunity to get some 5-star recruits. And I think those will come now that Indiana has that awareness, brand awareness across the country, north, south, east, and west. And again, remember, this coaching staff, including Coach Sig, they were in programs where they had to really evaluate, project talent out of these freshman kids. And while they may not get them on the initial swing, they've done a great job of staying in contact, mainly just where a kid is, so that they may get a chance to get him on the rebound. You look at some of the guys that they have gotten back, even into Indiana. Daly is one of them. They had him at James Madison's camp, so they were very aware of him and his abilities and his speed. And see, those relationships are always there in recruiting. So you keep track where kids go. They may not find themselves in a position where they're happy, and you may get some guys on the back end that come back to you in today's world of college football. So there are so many dynamics that go into this that it's really has become a 24/7, 365 day proposition, even at Division I, where it used to be that talk of being a 365 type of deal, really related to the quote unquote Division III level, where it's all based on financial need, academics, things of that nature. And you really didn't have your true official signing date in terms of them signing something that they were getting from the institution as by way of being rewarded for their athletic ability. Today at the Division I or all levels, it's an everyday proposition. As soon as you fill a class, you're looking at the next class and the class after that, as you've seen with the 27 and 28s already coming in for visits, and as well as some early commits in those groups of class. And you just never know who you're going to sign until you get to a day like this and get it. So enough of me kind of rambling on here, because I'm sure you're ready to hear some of this. Don't forget, I'm not going to show you all the recruiting film that I did in breakdown. You can catch that. I'll put a link in the description for that, but you can find that link to the YouTube site, my site, YouTube, that you can pull that from to watch these kids in a playlist that, allows you to watch them boom, 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 right after one another. There are 5 to 7, 8 minute clips of me talking about the strengths and why I thought Indiana took a kid like this, but you guys can, have your own opinions when it comes to that aspect of things, and, kind of go from that point of view. But, first and foremost, one of the big signees was Benjamin Novak. This is a kid out of Andrain. I got to see him play in the state playoffs as I was there on Saturday when they captured the state playoffs. This kid impressed me a ton. He's very flexible. He bends well at the knees. He's physical. He's got a great first step. He uses his hands well. Maybe a little will need to be brought to speed up on pass pro and stuff, and that's just technique. But when you look for offensive linemen, the first thing you look for, can they bend? That's the biggest thing. Can they bend? This kid can bend for a big body, but I liked what I saw out of Ben Novak, and I do think getting him on the flip from Wisconsin was huge. And it was good that Indiana was able to do that, because I do think he adds another element to the room from Coach Bobstead. And when you think about it, this kid right here, 6'7", 300-pounder, and that is huge in that respect for Indiana when it comes to being able to get a kid of that size and out of the state of Indiana, because you want to keep your home kids here. Another one is CJ out of Center Grove High School, another really good top high school in Indiana. Again, looking at the Bobstead trait, there it is, 6'6", 325. And again, he can flex, he's physical, and I like the aspect of what he brings to the table coming from Center Grove, because they're a team that likes to, pull guys, gap schemes. So he's well-versed in things of that magnitude, but this kid is going to be a good addition in that offensive line room and adds that depth, as will Simpson, the kid out of River Falls High School up in Wisconsin, another Wisconsin product, right out of the back door of Wisconsin, Bob Bobstead's old recruiting ground. Again, another kid, 6'4", 275. He's more of an interior guy, but he can play either, and he moves well. And I like the way he moves on the field. And then we start getting into some other guys here. Parker Elmore, Columbus North High School. This is a young man that came from a different school, played quarterback there, very athletic. Very, very good basketball player, can jump out of the gym. I've talked to some guys about him because he did not play. I think it was last year before, but anyway, there's some film on him in 7-on-7 and stuff of him actually running at the tight end spot. And this kid, I think, has huge upside because he's athletic. He can catch the ball well. He's a guy that's got size, 6'5", 230. I just think there's a lot of things here that Indiana will be able to groom him to be a really good tight end, where they can use him in as a tight end attached or split him out like we see Indiana loves to do. PJ McFarland, this is a tight end of Lakota East. This kid's very athletic, 6'5", 205. He's more of your guy that you would say, oh, he fits that, tight end / inside receiver type of deal. He's good. And I think he's a guy that in the passing game can have mismatches out on the perimeter. But you take a kid like this, 6'5", 205, and you move him into a situation where he gets in the weight room and stuff, all of a sudden now, you add 30 pounds to him. He's 240, 250. And next thing you know, you're adding to the stream of true tight ends at Indiana and what they like. And I think PJ fits that nicely as a kid that can grow into his body and get stronger. He already has a lot of the intangibles that you need. And I think that, again, he'll be a good get for that as well. Lavar Keys out of DeMoth Catholic in Maryland. Indiana got this kid on a flip They had recruited him early on. I think he was a Penn State commit, 5'10", 165. So he's got some room that he's got to grow within, but he's definitely a slot guy type and a return type of specialist type of player. Gives you some speed, but he brings that juice to the table. And I like the way he catches the ball. He can catch it, make guys miss, but you could tell the kid's got a lot of energy and juice in him. And I like that aspect of it. And, great for Indiana to be sitting on the doorstep when things didn't fall right for this young man when Penn State made their decision. And they were able to keep him from flipping back to Virginia once that was all set, or Virginia Tech once that was all said and done with that situation. Campbell, running back out of Georgia. This kid's 6', 190. He has the size. He's got the speed. He also fits that Hoosier running back room, the Kalon Black, the Hembees, BB Jr. And that's a kid too that he got hurt. BB did. And I do hope that he can come back into the fray because of what he brings to the table. And he's got a brother out there that I think is at UCF, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know what that scenario may or may not be, but there were some earlier on indications that he may jump into the portal. But who knows? We'll wait and see. But I hope BB can come back and add back to this running back. Gabe Hill, D lineman up there in Illinois at Naperville North. Good size. He's at 6'1.5", 290, interior disruptor, I call him. He's got quickness. He uses his hands very well. And I look for him to be a guy that they can utilize as a 1-tech, 3 technique. And I do think they'll be able to add another 30, 40 pounds on him and not lose a step in all this as well. So I like him out of Naperville North. Cameron McKinney, the kid from IMG, but he's actually out of Indiana, Greenwood. Another guy, that interior compact 3 technique type of body. Very good first step, very good punch. He went down to IMG, played good ball down there, and you can tell that he's going to be a dandy of a addition to the D line. And again, the emphasis on D line was the key component in this equation. So another good get for Indiana there. Then you look at Hugan, the kid from Booker down in Sarasota, another nice body, edge type of guy, 6'5", 215. He's got the length. He's got that rush skill that Indiana likes from a guy to bring off the edge. Here's a guy you can put down in a stance, stand him up, move him around. So a lot of the things here that you can get out of this young man. But getting a kid, again, out of Florida gives you a kid that's well-versed. He's played a lot of football. One advantage of those schools in the South, most of them at least, they have spring ball. So these kids almost play 2 separate seasons. So by the time Indiana gets a kid like this out of those type of states, they got a kid that is a little bit more mature in his football development than a kid maybe, let's say, out of Indiana, for instance, because they may not have or have had that year-round experience where you get to go out and put the pads on and bang around a little bit. But again, I like the way this kid works, got good tape. Again, if you're looking for the tape of these guys, go to the link that I will provide you that will take you right to a playlist that gives you all these players that Indiana signed today. The Johnson kid out of Blue Springs, I like this kid a lot. Again, he's a guy that also can be on the edge, but I look at he's a kid you put as a 5 technique, that boundary defensive edge that can be a disruptor, play tough in the run game, but athletic enough that he can drop into coverage if need be and things of that nature. So again, you can see Indiana and how they looked for their defensive linemen. They look for those guys that can be pluggers, that can get inside and get penetration and, play, fight you in a phone booth. And then they get the guys that are athletic, a little more skill, that can come off the edge or play edge pretty good in this defensive front and philosophy that Indiana utilizes. This kid, Henry Ohlinger, 4-star out of Grandview, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. He went to Grandview Heights. This kid even played running back and was a phenomenal running back at Grandview. Indiana is looking at him as a linebacker. That was what they recruited him as. His tape is really good, and Indiana was able to get him out of the backyard of Ohio State and was able to get him here, signed, sealed, delivered today. He's going to add depth and skill, but I think this kid's going to be a dynamite player to keep an eye on in a year or two. And he may be one of those guys that's good enough to come in and knock up be in that 2 deep potentially with the guys that Indiana's losing. Williams is another kid out of Washington High School in Ohio, up there at Massillon, Ohio. This kid is a little bit underrated in my opinion. I really liked his film as well. He's coming from a great program. He's been well coached and very good in the skill department. When you look for guys that can move, use their hands, he's a guy at linebacker that can flow, but also get north and south. I think that Indiana got a really good one with this kid, kind of under the radar type. I'm excited to see this kid's growth and potential once this defense gets their hands on him, and Coach Haynes especially, because I think the kid's smart. I think he plays really good, high IQ for football IQ, and I think he'll fit great within the system of what Coach Haynes likes here at Indiana. Trevor Gibbs, he's another kid like the Williams kid, under the radar type of player, in my opinion. He's 6'2", 205. This kid, I loved his tape when I first saw him. He plays tight end. He plays linebacker. He can run. He's physical at the point of attack. He's got great instincts. He may have had a couple of interceptions this year. He made some great catches as a tight end. A very tradition-rich program like Crown Point. So, again, Indiana, I think, got a really good player that maybe not got, the love that you would see from schools. But I do think Indiana, again, was able to fulfill some needs here, especially at that linebacker position. Because you look at a kid like Trevor, is he one of those guys that can creep to the outside, and kind of be an edge guy? So there's a lot of flexibility with this kid that I thought was a good get. Savage, probably my favorite linebacker. He's a middle linebacker down there from Union, Kentucky. This kid reminds me of Aiden Fisher. He's a very high football IQ. And what I mean by reminds me of Aiden is the fact that he's a tough nose. He can make the play. He can bang it up inside or get over the top, and he makes plays in space just as much as he makes plays in the tackle box. So I love this kid. 3-star, again, another great high school, but he's a guy that I look to see too, how well he does here at Indiana under this linebacking core and the scheme that Indiana runs. And I think Savage is one of those guys we're going to hear a name quite a bit. He's got a great linebacker name too, Savage. You got to like that. Kashmir Hicks, one of the fastest guys in this group, I believe, out of Decatur Central. He is a guy that can be a cover corner, little lanky, could add some pounds on him. We'll be able to do that. He's a guy they can put out on an island and go one-on-one with, kind of like they do with D'Angelo and things of that nature. But I like the fact that they got this kid. He was highly recruited, and they won the battles against some guys for his services. And the fact, again, top-notch talent staying home in Indiana, critical. You'll see a lot of Indiana guys. Ohio State's got a couple of them. One of them plays on their defense, is pretty good, and he's also out of Center Grove. His name is escaping me right now, but those are the type of guys that Indiana's got to keep in this state because they're darn good football players, and they're not going to be able to keep all of them, but if they can get their fair share of them, especially these top-end kids, they're going to have to do quite well. Timms is the kid out of Armwood, Florida. Again, nice size, safety type of body kid, 6'1", 195. He loves to hit. He's one of those guys that he is going to be a great addition when you lose, you lose Lewis Moore and those type. He kind of feels that body type of Farrell. And I do think it's going to be a good aspect of getting him into the fray of things. And I think he ultimately is a great get in that back end secondary for Indiana. And I don't think you can go wrong with what he brings to the table from that perspective. And again, another solid Indiana commitment on defense. I mean, that's kind of the rule here. Jamar Owens, another safety out of Douglas County, Georgia, very highly recruited. He's got some room. I love his cover abilities. I do think he's a project in the sense he's got to get bigger, but he has what you can't, coach in some respects, is his speed, and the fact this kid will take you on at any point in time, and he loves to hit. But I do think he's got great upside, and I do think Indiana will do good with him. Blake Smythe, this kid out of Franklin Community here in Franklin, Indiana, 6'4", 300, good first step, physical, strong. I do think this is a kid that will has a lot of upside to him, and the fact that he's already got the size and the weight on him, I just think from this point forward, this kid is going to really grow into a very good inside type of player in this defense. He reminds me of those guys that Iowa gets, or Penn State gets, that are in that interior line that you go against them and they just beat the hell out of you because they're really good. But this is the type of kid that I think Blake is, and he adds that into Indiana's mix. Very, very good, and I'm excited that they were able to get that kid. Mondu, another kid out of Wisconsin, another offensive lineman, 3-star, 6'7", 315 pounds. So we've got a couple 6'7s. We got a 6'6" and a 6'4" up on the inside line, in the line for Coach Bobstead. So you got the size, you've got the length, and he's a big man, but he fits Coach Bobstead's offensive line in terms of the type of guy you look for. He bends good. He's got good technique, and he's just going to get better once he gets here under the tutelage of Coach Bobstead along the way. Rupert, the wide receiver out of East St. Louis over in Illinois. This kid's got great speed. He's definitely a deep threat. Take the top off the secondary, 6'1", 160. Hey, let's get him in the weight room for a year or two and see what they can put on him, and then bring him out there in that wide receiver room that Indiana's just stacking the ability with. And let's see where he stacks up. But coming out of East St. Louis, good high school program. They sent a lot of guys off to major D1 schools, Power 4 schools, and some guys into the league. And this kid right here adds to a wide receiver room because he's got the speed and he's got the size in his favor. And I think he's a guy that can be a viable deep threat for Indiana and go play and get those 50-50 balls if needed. Then you got Rodney White, kid out of Maryland, defensive line, Concordia Prep. Great looking kid, 295 pounds. He was one of those guys Indiana, picked up over the summer. And when you put the tape on the kid, you could see why they really liked him. This kid can run. He can make plays behind the line of scrimmage. He can chase people down. He's got that great first step and quickness. And he's a very intelligent kid and a very good football player. I think that he's one of those guys that fit the offense or the defensive line again. He's that 6'1", 295 kid that can come in and use his physicality and create problems, and also be able to beat the one-on-one block and go make plays. So again, I think this cat gives you that as well. And I really like where Indiana is facing up in their recruiting of the 2026 class. 22 signees, four-star prospects, a very defensive flavored recruiting class, which you can expect with, losing the guys are going to lose. Don't know what their portal needs may or may not be. Do not know whether or not they'll bring in a true freshman quarterback or not. And I think there's a lot of things that are very fluid in this as they head and progress beyond this. And remember, the bad thing about the portal this year, Indiana, by getting that, we'll see what happens. But, they play Saturday against Ohio State for the Big Ten championship, potentially getting one of the top four seeds and gives them that bye. High probability they're going to be playing around that January 1st date when the portal opens. So there's going to have to be a lot of fluid aspect of things with the recruiting staff eyeballing the portal and doing that as well as, getting ready to play a game. So we'll see what all transpires with that portal because you only have one this year. Indiana's done great on that spring portal. That's where they've gotten some great guys. And now they only get that one window up. And so we'll have to see how that all plays out of this season for Indiana, because that's been a big part of the recruiting in that respect. Before I go, the one last thing I do want to talk about is who I thought the best in-state get for Indiana was. There's a lot of good in-state players that they were able to get, but this kid, Ben Novak, the kid from Andrean High School, boy, I just think he was a great, great flip from Wisconsin. He's got all the traits you're looking for. He's strong. He can bend, and he's physical. And when I saw him at the state tournament playing, I got really excited by watching him. And, you get a better feel for a kid in person as opposed to watching video on a kid. So I was more impressed I was impressed with his video. I was even more impressed watching him in the state championship game. And I do think this is a huge get for Indiana. And don't forget to get on over to thehoosier.com, wall-to-wall coverage of everything you could want about this recruiting class, as well as that link to the playlist of all the recruits that I've done a breakdown on that have committed and signed with Indiana. Stay tuned for more coverage here on thehoosier.com as well. And do not forget, we will have the Indiana Ohio State preview show tomorrow at Thursday night at 7:30. So come join us, get some insight on the Ohio State Buckeyes, as well as for those people that get 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM up here. You will also get a preview of the Indiana Ohio State game to listen to on the radio, as it will be played prior to the live coverage there in Indy at Lucas Oil at 7:30. The preview will play on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM from 6:30 to 7:30. So if you don't have a chance to join us and you got a chance to pick up 1380 The Fan, don't fret. You'll have an opportunity to catch that as well on Saturday prior to the Big Ten championship game. Appreciate you joining me. And again, we'll keep you up to date at all we can on the recruiting aspects of Indiana football, all on thehoosier.com. But for now, I'm the Coach Shannon Griffith. You've been watching a special Hoosier Tailgate recruiting edition here on thehoosier.com. Good night, everybody.